Hello and thanks for joining us today as part of our Paris Olympic shows on Arts 24, the city's new public art to honour the legacy of the Games. An Olympic sculpture of a black woman holding an olive branch and a golden flame, designed for the City of Lights, the host of the 2024 Olympics, by an artist from the city who'll host the next Games in 2028, Los Angeles. And it comes 4 years after the French artist Xavier Vaillant created the audience for the last Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. And joining me in the studio is the American artist Alison Saar, who was commissioned to create this magnificent Olympic sculpture in Paris. Hello, Alison.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Now, the artwork is called the Salon, and it's at the foot of the famous Paris avenue, the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah.
And talk to us about this impressive lady.
Well, I was really interested in kind of creating a space that was very inviting for folks to come, and as opposed to a traditional monument, which, you walk by or you look up to, this is a space where people can come and sit down, and hopefully she represents, humanity and dignity and all those things.
And Alison, you're a prolific artist. Your work has been exhibited in prominent museums across the United States, such as the Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Among your highly regarded works is the first public monument to a black woman, Harriet Tubman, in New York City in 2008. What was it like creating this memorial, the first public work to a black woman?
Well, it was, with these things, they're a great honor, but it also feels like a great responsibility. So I kind of really wanted to talk more about kind of what the things that Harriet embodied in terms of compassion and all those things. So it's a portrait of her, but it is also a portrait of her personality.
And for 40 years, your work has focused on black female identity. Your body of work examines issues of justice and compassion, focusing on people who have been underrepresented and marginalised. And for the Olympic project, how important was it for you to break with the image of the standard white man that we find in most monuments and sculptures?
Well, again, I think, we're now questioning all these monuments. I think, the park is surrounded by generals and other, males, mostly, kind of coming out of wartime stuff. So I really felt it was important to kind of put in a female figure that was representing peace and representing, kind of a giving soul to her.
Now, the Olympic sculpture is your first project outside of the United States, your first public project outside the United States. How does this new sculpture relate to your past work?
Well, I think the work all really talks about kind of showing a different sort of history, maybe a more truthful history. And so I think it relates to that. And also kind of the power of women in terms of being really solid support figures and creative beings as well. And so it fits in that respect. But it's different in that this was, addressing the Olympics per se, and that being really outside of my purview for the most part.
And the Champs-Élysées is possibly the most famous road in Paris, in France, maybe. What's it like seeing her sitting there?
Well, it's a little daunting, to be honest with you, to think that this, one of my pieces would be in this really important historic site right in front of La Place de la Concorde. And so I was really actually a little nervous. But once we had her all installed and people were walking around, she felt very much at home. So I think, I wanted to kind of create a place for people outside of, these other white male figures to feel like they're being represented.
And what sort of reaction have you had to her so far?
I think probably within the first hour that I was there, a father was walking through the park with his young son, and the father was on his, looking at his phone and kind of rushing by. But the son stopped, and I think he was like 3, and circled around a couple of times and touched her and sat down in one of the chairs. So I love that, immediately people are kind of responding and not feeling that it needs to be art that needs to be revered from afar, that you can actually come in and participate with it. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about making it. Every aspect of the sculpture was produced here in France. And tell us about this decision.
Well, I think we wanted to do it for a couple of reasons. One, for time, because it would take a long time to ship it and all that, but also that we wanted to have a green footprint, and maybe foremost that we just wanted to support the amazing artisans here in France. So.
And then this is what the Olympic Games are all about, bringing together sort of different cultures of the world. The Paris Games, it does come at a time when the far right is gaining power here in France, not just here, at the rest of the world, including America. How concerned are you about that? And what do you see the role of works like this?
You know, I mean, it is a concern. You know, I was questioning how she would be received in many ways. But, you know, I think it's even more important now than ever that the work is out there, and that so many of us that feel like, you know, what we believe in is being undermined, that there is, you know, a sculpture out there that supports it. So.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other artworks in public spaces here in Paris. For the Olympics, the renowned French photographer Raymond Depardon and his son Simon have created the largest open-air photographic trail ever created for public viewing. This monumental photographic journey showcases Raymond Depardon's legendary photos taken during the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Mexico, Munich and Montreal between 1964 and 1976. And in the spirit of an Olympic relay, these photos are complemented by a series of portraits taken by his son Simon of athletes from the French Olympic team.
Next to City Hall, in the heart of Paris, Raymond Depardon gazes up at two-time gold medalist Lee Evans, fist raised to the sky. The photographer took this legendary shot at the 1968 Games in Mexico. He explains that no matter the city or the era, the Olympics are always political.
I'm a photographer of the decolonization era. I started in 1960 and was told, hey, go to Algeria, independent Ivory Coast, Senegal. And so I took all these photos there. Then, as I covered the Olympics, I saw the Africans arrive at the Games, and it was magnificent.
16 enormous prints are displayed in the streets of Paris and around Olympic venues. The goal? To take the public on an enduring photographic journey and tell the stories behind the shots.
We had to decide on 16 locations, sometimes glass surfaces, sometimes walls, sometimes scaffolding. When we put the photos up, we immediately got the feeling of something more alive, of being in an open-air exhibition, a free museum. On each of the photos, you have a QR code. You scan it and you get Raymond, who explains the shot to you.
I took this photo in Munich, the 4x400 meter relay. What we don't see is the German who fell, who was in the lead since the beginning of the race, cheered on by the crowd, the whole stadium standing, screaming. And a few meters from the finish line, he falls and collapses, and the Frenchman takes his place. And then there was silence. I can still remember it.
To pass the baton to the next generation, the city of Paris asked Raymond's son, photographer Simon Depardon, to produce a portrait series of French athletes competing this year.
This is a photo of Mejdi Schlack. His speciality is climbing, bouldering in particular. And I like this photo because we feel the weight of the responsibility this young athlete carries, with all of France behind him. He is very young, and he has incredible rigor. He is extremely strong.
Father and son united on the walls of Paris, an experience of immense joy and great pride.
Such incredible photos there. I'm with the American artist Alison Saar. Alison, what do you see then as the role of exhibitions and art during a sporting event like this, like the Olympics?
Well, I think it really kind of brings these two worlds together. Sometimes they're very, very separate. And I think that it shows, again, going back to Coubertin's, you know, original ideas about the Olympics, and that it's about sharing and bringing and things together and humanity and dignity. So I think they definitely belong together. So.
And tell me, are you a sports fan? Will you be watching the games?
I'll be watching some. I'm not a massive sports fan, but...
You're definitely involved now, though, aren't you?
Yes, yes.
And what's next for you, Alison Saar?
I've got a couple other public commissions in the States, and so I'll be heading home and getting those installed. And then just looking forward to just having some time in the studio to make up art.
Okay, Alison Saar, it's been a pleasure to have you in the studio. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to end with some more public art at Paris's National Assembly. 6 sculptures by French artist Laurent Perbos are on display. They're inspired by the Louvre's Venus de Milo, one of the best-known statues in the world. Each sculpture has an Olympic discipline, including basketball, boxing, javelin throwing and para-archery. We're going to leave you with that. You can see Alison Saar's Olympic sculpture at the Salon on the Champs-Élysées in the Gardens in Paris. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.